Hello, welcome to the book babble for July. It's been a very interesting month so far, as I've had my in-laws with me, which means I haven't done much reading. But we're going to start with series, as we always do. And the soundtrack you're listening to is trance music because we were in the car a lot yesterday and I was listening to it a lot. So if you don't like trance, it's in the background, so don't worry. Okay, so first I'm going to go with series. Now, Laurie King, this is not the first in the series. This is the only one I currently can find. I know that the first one, which is called The Beekeeper's Apprentice, I have on loan to somebody. This is a familiar theme. So these books are based on the Sherlock Holmes. Laurie King does a very good job of recreating Sherlock Holmes, and instead of killing him off, keeps him alive, makes him older, but gives him a younger companion. Dr. Watson is still around, but Mary Russell is the girl in question. She is a scholar. She has been walking in the hills and she trips over a gentleman, and it turns out to be Sherlock Holmes, who is keeping bees and having them sting him for his arthritis, to treat the arthritis in his hands. It is obviously it's not up to date, but this series is interesting because Laurie King can take certain incidents. For instance, there are a couple of paragraphs that she uses in one of the books called Locked Rooms, which is a bit further on in the series. She manages to take that entire paragraph and turn it into a book much later on down the line. There are a lot of these. This only lists the first 5, and there are a lot more since then. So yes, The Beekeeper's Apprentice is the first one in this series, and if you like your Sherlock Holmes with a very modern companion, she's a woman ahead of her time, and the series is narrated by both Mary Russell and in some parts from Sherlock Holmes' point of view. Very good, very interesting series, a lot of fun to read, and Holmes buffs will love this. On to the next one. Now, the next one is a book I bought, and this is quite recent. It is The Last Equation of Isaac Severy by Nova Jacobs. I was actually reading this while I was helping close up one night, and I was waiting for somebody that was training to do something, and so I started this book. So basically, Isaac Severy is a genius, and his equation is something that everybody wants, and I mean everybody. And he decides to safeguard the equation from his family and from people who might use his family to get hold of it. And it's a novel. It says a novel in clues, and that's pretty much what it is. Jacobs basically takes a bookstore owner who is related to Isaac Severy and gives her the task of unearthing the last equation. And that is all I'm going to give you. But it is very well written. It was quite funny in parts, and it is available wherever great books are sold. Right. So now we are on to these are the coming soons, and for once I actually have most of them, because this is what happens when your in-laws stay with you. Your books don't quite get back where they should. The one that I don't have is The Witch Elm by Tana French. This is a standalone. This is not one of those books where she takes a character and puts them into another situation. I had several people who wanted it, so I don't have the copy. It is basically it's this guy who he's very happy-go-lucky. His parents are quite rich, and so they have bought him an apartment. He kind of coasts through life. He's working at a gallery. He has a problem. He thinks he's sorted it out, and then he's out for a drink with his mates, goes back to his house, and wakes up in the middle of the night to hear people. Thinking that he is being robbed and still a little drunk, he attacks them. But of course, he's no match for two sober thugs, and they basically beat him to within an inch of his life. He then has to be hospitalised. It's his recovery. It's the fact that the police are not as nice. I wouldn't say nice. Police aren't nice. They're not as on his side as you would think they would be. They automatically assume that he did something to bring this on himself. And maybe he did. I'm not going to tell you whether he did or he didn't. But he and his girlfriend move in with his uncle, who is terminally ill and needs a carer. And they're out in this house in the middle of the country, and things transpire. Things surrounding his family, things that he thinks he knows when he was growing up that he didn't really know at all. And now we have this, which I was very pleased to get. The new Anthony Horowitz. Horowitz is writing for the Fleming estate. So this is the second James Bond that he's done. But this is actually a prequel to Casino Royale. So again, it contains material that Ian Fleming wrote, but only a little bit. And I now know where that little bit is, and it fits in perfectly. So this is basically how James Bond became 007. And it starts off with 007 dying, because if 007 didn't die, James Bond couldn't take the number. It's set in the south of France. It is very, very Fleming-esque. It feels like it belongs in the canon. It was a lot of fun to read, and I would highly recommend it to Horowitz fans and Fleming fans alike, because it's literally like you're rereading in Fleming. So, really good. Oh, this one comes out November. It comes out in November. That's that. Then we've got this one, The Shape of the Ruins. This is not my normal read, because this is a political thriller, but it's more fiction than mystery. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was... it actually reads a lot more like non-fiction. We always say there are some people that write non-fiction that reads like fiction. This is the reverse, but not in a bad way. He has created a character who is actually him. I mean, Juan Gabriel Vasquez is the name of the character, but this character has done other things apart from, even though he is also a writer. It is a very interesting political situation set in Argentina. Like I said, a fascinating read. And although none of it's true, it's based on some real events, although the names have been changed to protect the guilty, maybe? Anyway, this one, it's by Riverhead, and it comes out in September the 25th to be precise. And last one I have here is, I have blurbed this, I just haven't given it back. It's The 31 Kings by Robert Harris. And it's not that Robert Harris, it's Robert J. Harris. He has taken the John Buchan novels. I read the 39 Steps years ago. And he has put them together with another series that he did, which was about a group of Scottish tearaways who become war heroes. And he basically puts Buchan together with these guys. And Richard Hannay is now a retired general. He is in the middle of World War II. The French have just surrendered, so it's after Dunkirk. But the 31 Kings is a code name for an organisation that the Germans are trying to root out. And they have captured the man who knows everything about it, and they are about to hand him over to the people that will be able to extract the information. He won't be able to give it, he will give it up without even trying. And Hannay and his team are there to rescue him. It's fun. There's lots of daring do and you know what my dad would call oh, I don't know, it's sort of, there's chums and people flying into things, and it's very, very sort of, I wouldn't say oldie worldy, but the language fits the World War II era. Very good. Wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, so very glad that I got a chance to read it. This one comes out also in September. Now, normally at this point, I would show you what I am going to be reading in the next few weeks, but this is currently what I have to be reading in the next few weeks. Like I said, having the in-laws round has been a bit of a there's been a dent in my reading. So I will be opening these and having a look at them soon, but for now, I'm sure that there's some great stuff in here, and thank you to the people who sent me these wonderful envelopes. I love that you do that. Follow-up. I talked about Cross Her Heart by Sarah Penborough and Nomad by James Swallow. Nomad, I loved. It really is like I Am Pilgrim. It rockets along. And I am very pleased to discover that it is the first in a series, although they've only been published in England so far. So hopefully I'll be able to get my mitts on the second one fairly shortly. Cross Her Heart, I liked, but it wasn't. Behind Her Eyes, I think, was basically. I doubt if I'll see a Behind Her Eyes again. It was good. I read it. I finished it. But it just didn't grab me as much as Behind Her Eyes. But Penborough fans, and there are a lot of them, are going to love it. So that's all I'm going to say on that score. Okay, little shorter than usual, but like I said, I don't think you want to watch me open a bunch of envelopes and go, woo, because that's not really very exciting. Okay, so that's it for this romp through our books. I hope you enjoyed it, and be back in August. I wouldn't say good summer, I would say have a cool summer.